7 conversations, one pattern nobody wants to admit, burnout that has nothing to do with workload, silence that's more dangerous than any argument, AI that's about to make your weakest system faster and more wrong. I pulled the moments from this season where our guests said the things that most leadership content is too careful to say out loud. Here's how to watch this. Pay attention to the one that makes you uncomfortable. That's the one you need to act on. Let's go. Think about the last person on your team who burned out. What did you do? Probably gave them a break, redistributed the load, treated it like a person problem. I'm about to tell you why that diagnosis was wrong and why the same thing is happening to someone on your team right now. If every decision is routing through you, you are not just overloaded. You are the system. Your team freezes the moment that your calendar does. This is Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. And I'm Mike Mahony. I'm going to help you remove yourself as the bottleneck without losing control. I'm going to show you how to map decision domains so that decisions happen with or without you in the room. That's a very important thing. GTLE systems for senior tech leaders who are tired of being the exception handler. There's not going to be any mindset talk here today. We're going to name your decision domains, assign the rights, and tighten your escalation paths. Every decision that has to touch you to move forward is a single point of failure. And here's the pattern. Your best people feel that bottleneck the hardest. That's why they break first. The system didn't burn them out. You built the system. When was the last time you left a leadership meeting thinking it went well because nobody pushed back? That feeling, that's not alignment. That's your early warning system going dark. The other thing is that with your team being silent because they don't know what the hell to do, silence begins to look like alignment, but it's actually disengagement. What will happen is your team will shut off. They'll disengage themselves from the situation. Their feedback gets really vague. You get the everything's fine syndrome coming out. You ask them, how's everything going? Everything's great. It's like the people who always ask you, how are you doing? What do they expect? Fine. Try this one time when it's true. How's everything going? It's a rough day today. You kind of see a delay in response because they didn't expect that. They disengage after they ask the question. Great people disengage quietly. The teams that look the most aligned are usually the most paralyzed. They've learned that speaking up doesn't change anything, so they stopped. Ask yourself, when's the last time someone challenged you in a meeting and you made them feel safe for doing it? Here's the trap. Velocity, sprint completion, lines shipped. You run your engineering org like a factory and then wonder why it's not building you a competitive moat. Ron Arausi is going to break down exactly why your most tracked metrics might be pointing you at the wrong future.
I guess you can improve that, but it's not something you can really teach. You need to be a product person. You need to be able to think about the user experience at all times and not work under this mentality, that's what the client asked, so I've marked the checkboxes and I'm done. No, if it doesn't make sense, push back. If there could be something that can be better, add it. If the design is not pixel perfect, make it pixel perfect. But you have to be a product person. And there's an amazing video that surfaced around. I actually try to watch it at least once, twice a year. It's when Steve Jobs came back to Apple in the mid-late 90s. And the employees asking, why did you decide to kill this line of software? It's much better than Java. I don't remember what it was, but it's better than Java. And you can see Jobs trying to calm himself down. So he had a temperament, but he then went on to give a great answer, because you cannot just have a great technology and then try to figure out where I'm going to shove it down people's throats. You need to start with the end user in mind and then work backwards to that technology. And if the experience is better, then in that case was Java, then it was in our internal tool. Even if our internal tool was technically better, it doesn't matter. Because if the developer experience, I think that they meant that with Java, the great thing was you can develop across platform. So if the developer experience in that Java, that 25, 30 years ago is better for the developer, the fact that ours is cooler won't make any difference. So you need to start with the end user in mind and then work backwards to that technology. So that goes to being a product person. You have to start with what's the makeup of the best product that we can ship, and then work backwards to what stack we're going to use, instead deciding, no, I'm comfortable with Next.js, and I decided that I want to use Postgres or Mongo, whatever it is, and now let's see what I can do with those technologies. No, you need to figure out what the product needs to feel and do, and then it's your problem to figure out what tools and stack. It's not the user's problem. The user will never want to hear that the server is slow because stack X better than stack Y. They don't care.
You're not in the business of writing code. You're in the business of delivering outcomes. If your metrics don't reflect that distinction, you're building precision in the wrong direction. Now, I hear this constantly. We're rolling out AI to drive efficiency, or AI is going to streamline our operations. And I don't push back in the moment because I'd rather people experience this truth than hear me explain it. Santosh Kavedi names it better than I can. AI is a multiplier, and a multiplier doesn't care whether it's multiplying strength or dysfunction. If your decision making is slow, AI makes it faster and more wrong. If your data is bad, AI processes it at scale and confidently produces garbage. The organizations sprinting toward AI without fixing their systems first, they're not accelerating. They're accelerating in the wrong direction. I want to ask you something directly. The last major decision that went sideways in your org, whose fault was it? If your answer is the team, the market, or the timeline, Daniel Nikic has something for you.
I think the most important thing that startups have to look at is what's your exit plan. Because if you want investment, every investor is going to be like, what is your exit plan? Yeah, you want to be, or they're thinking, okay, maybe I'll wait for the company to grow big and get a secondary investor to buy my shares in, something like that. But good positioning in terms of overall, you have to understand you can't be content. And I've heard from a lot of successful business people and those who I worked with, you have to be anxious in terms of your company, like where it's going to be in the future. And you have to be able to find solutions to big problems. You have to look at the tech architecture. And sometimes they say they use AI, but it could be from a third-party source, which I have nothing against, to be honest. And because I think sometimes a company has to be realistic and be like, can we really develop a better product than what's already in market? If not, can we work on this and let's just say upgrade what we need for the market? And I think that's a good business decision, because sometimes not everyone can be a telecommunications company, but they can use the telecommunication companies' products and services to get a certain product or idea out. And I think a lot of times you can look at the patents, what patents they're using, because if they have an innovative AI, they usually will get a patent. Why? For copyrights. And and I will say this very openly, I've seen a lot of companies, 0 revenue, but they have a great patent. And that's why certain investors invest in them. And they're like, Cisco's going to buy this patent of them. We'll get a return on investment. It's a nice safe bet. It's like putting money in a treasury bond. I could sleep at night.
Responsibility doesn't dilute as it moves up the hierarchy. It concentrates. You don't get to point down. You are the system. Your organization has a strategy. It's written down. It's been presented. It's on a slide somewhere. Brad Englert's test is simple, and it will tell you in about 30 seconds whether you actually have one.
I think a lot of organizations, and this is a dirty little secret, don't have a strategy. And I find that when I got to the university, they had asked me to help them with their first IT strategy. And it really helped guide the organization for the 8 years I was there. I would say, make sure you have a strategy. If not, get some help to make one.
Can every person on your team, not just your leadership team, every person tell you what the strategy is and what their specific work has to do with it? The answer is no. You don't have a strategy. You have a document. Now, this one's personal because this is where I started. I was the hero, the one who showed up when things were on fire, the one who could pull an all-nighter and save the launch. I thought that was leadership. Firefighting gets confused with commitment. How many times have you heard things like, Mike is such a committed executive, he's always here. And over time, firefighting, it just becomes expected because that's how good CTOs get stuck. You teach other people what the expectations are, and they just stick with them. This is how high integrity leaders, they burn out because it isn't a sustainable, it's not sustainable to act this way. It just isn't. You need to stop being the one that's the bottleneck, okay? This is how organizations unknowingly design themselves around a single human bottleneck. You. So I'm going to spend this entire session unpacking why that happens, why most CTOs don't see it until they're already deep inside it, and why nearly every attempt to fix the problem actually makes it worse. You can't control or outwork a bad system. It just doesn't happen. But let me define something very precisely, because vague language, it's part of how this problem survives in the first place. A firefighter CTO is not someone who works long hours. That may surprise you. A firefighter CTO is someone who has become the default decision authority for ambiguity. Anytime something isn't clear, anytime there's risk, they come to you. Anytime there's disagreement, anytime there's uncertainty, they come to you. It's not sustainable. If everything routes to you, well, that's a problem. And the reason that it's so dangerous is that ambiguity, it's infinite. Technology is ambiguity all on itself. Scale is ambiguity. Security, it's ambiguity. All of these things, architecture, it's ambiguity. Trade-offs, they're ambiguity. So, if ambiguity routes to you, your workload, it doesn't have a natural ceiling. It has no place to stop. That's the first thing that most CTOs miss in this situation. There's no finish line where firefighting ends. There's only exhaustion. Now, here's the part that makes this really difficult for you to confront. Most firefighter CTOs, they didn't demand control, they inherited it. And often they inherited it by being excellent at what they do. Early in your career, and I want you to think back to this, you were probably the person who could figure things out when nobody else could. You could reason through complexity. You could see dependencies. You probably could debug code faster. You could explain things clearly. And when things went wrong, you were the calm one. Now, that's not by accident. One time long ago, when I was a CTO, I was in a situation where we were using AT&T for our internet service, and then we had a backup internet service. And one day, AT&T was working outside of our building, and they clipped a line, and it brought our internet down. And when I contacted them, they said that it was going to be up no more than 2 hours, sorry. And so they said, yeah, that's it. It'll be between now and 2 hours that it's up. And I was calm and I switched over to the backup internet and I made sure I walked around, made sure everyone was still functional on the internet. And then my CEO asked me to come in his office and he's like, why aren't you upset? Why aren't you panicking? What's going on? I told him, do you want someone who's running around like a chicken with their head cut off to make everybody stressed out? Or do you want someone like me who's taking control? So folks, that's competence. But in organizations that don't know how to scale leadership, competence just gets weaponized. Instead of building systems around it, everybody leans on it. Instead of replicating it, they centralize it. And instead of teaching it, you're right, you know what's coming. They consume it. And slowly, quietly, you stop being a contributor and you start becoming the infrastructure itself. The best firefighter in the room is almost always the worst system builder because firefighting gets rewarded. It's invisible, it's dramatic, it feels like impact. But every time you put that hero on a pedestal, you're signaling to your entire organization that staying broken, that's the strategy. 7 conversations, 1 through line. The constraint in your organization is not your team, it's not your budget, your tools, or your tech stack. It's the system your leadership built. And right now, that system is either scaling your impact or scaling your problems. Here's your 1 action before you close this video. Name 1 decision in your org that's waiting on you right now. That's your starting point. If you're not sure whether you're a firefighter CTO or a system CTO, take my diagnostic quiz. The link is in the description below. And please subscribe for more of these conversations. Watch the full episodes. Every guest is linked below. And as always,